guys, in this month's Historical Fiction 101, I'm going to be giving you some book recommendations for books that take place in hotels. Hotels, you may be saying to yourself. Yes, it is really random and obscure, but believe it or not, there's quite a lot of books out there where characters are like living in a hotel, or there's big events going down in a hotel. So yeah, I managed to find 10 books in the historical fiction genre, obviously. 10 books where characters are either at a hotel, like the hotel plays some sort of big pivotal part, So yeah, let's get going. And as always, I'm going to be looking down here at my laptop. Pull up your Goodreads, and if any of these books sound like your cup of tea, go ahead and start adding them to your list. First up, Murder at the Mayfair Hotel by C.J. Archer, and this is part of the Cleopatra Fox series. December 1899. After the death of her beloved grandmother, Cleopatra Fox moves into the luxury hotel owned by her estranged uncle in the hopes of putting hardship and loneliness behind her. But the poisoning of a guest on Christmas Eve throws her new life and the hotel into chaos. Cleo quickly realizes no one can be trusted, not Scotland Yard, and especially not the hotel's charming assistant manager. With the New Year's Eve ball approaching fast and the hotel's reputation hanging by a thread, Cleo must find the killer before the ball and the hotel itself are ruined. But catching a murderer proves just as difficult as navigating the hotel's hierarchy and the peculiarities of her family. Can Cleo find the killer before the new century begins, or will someone get away with murder? Ooh. Next up, The Chelsea Girls by Fiona Davis. From the dramatic red brick facade to the sweeping staircase dripping with art, the Chelsea Hotel has long been New York City's creative oasis for the many artists, writers, musicians, actors, filmmakers, and poets who have called it home. A scene playwright, Hazel Riley, and actress Maxine Mead are determined to use this to their advantage. Yet they soon discover that the greatest obstacle to putting up a show on Broadway has nothing to do with their art and everything to do with politics. A red scare is sweeping across America, and Senator Joseph McCarthy has started a witch hunt for communists, with those in the entertainment industry in the crosshairs. As the pressure builds to name names, it is more than Hazel and Maxine's Broadway dreams that may suffer as they grapple with the terrible consequences, but also their livelihood, their friendship, and even their freedom. And yet it says this is spanning like from the 1940s into the 1960s. Next up, All the Ways We Said Goodbye by Beatrice Williams, Lauren Willig, and Karen White. And this is a book that I did read and enjoy. I really liked it. And yeah, this is one of those books, because we do have 3 authors telling the story. This is one of those books that there's like 3 different timelines. Each author is handling a different timeline and like a different set of characters. So yeah, there's like one that takes place in 1914, one that's 1942, and then another that's 1964. Yeah, focusing on 3 different women who are all kind of connected in some way through like a shared plot, even though they're like decades apart or even a century apart. But yeah, it's focused on all these women, and what connects them is that they all eventually wind up at the Ritz Hotel. They all have some sort of stay there at the Ritz Hotel. And like I said, like the 1914 plot has something to do with World War I, and then like the 1942 one has something to do with World War II, and yeah, the 1960s plot is a woman who is kind of putting all those pieces together. Next up, The Paragon Hotel by Lindsay Fay. The year is 1921, and nobody, Alice James, is on a cross-country train carrying a bullet wound and fleeing for her life, following an illicit drug and liquor deal gone horribly wrong. Desperate to get as far away as possible from New York City and those who want her dead, she has her sights set on Oregon, a distant frontier that seems the end of the line. She befriends Max, a black Pullman porter who reminds her achingly of Harlem, who leads Alice to the Paragon Hotel upon arrival in Portland. Her unlikely sanctuary turns out to be the only all-black hotel in the city, and its lodgers seem unduly terrified of a white woman on the premises. But as she meets the churlish Dr. Pendleton, the stately Mayorine, and the unforgettable Club Chanteuse, Blossom Fontaine, she begins to understand the reason for their dread. The Ku Klux Klan, oh god, has arrived in Portland in fearful numbers, burning crosses, inciting violence, electing officials, and brutalizing blacks. And only Alice, along with her new family of Paragon residents, are willing to search for a missing mulatto child who has mysteriously vanished into the Oregon woods. Oh, okay, this sounds pretty terrifying. Next up, The Christie Affair by Nina de Gramont. And this book, there's a large chunk of the story that has nothing to do with a hotel, but there is a chunk of the plot where there is some characters at a hotel, and there's certain plot aspects that do wrap around this hotel. In 1925, Miss Nan O'Day infiltrated the wealthy, rarefied world of author Agatha Christie and her husband Archie. In every way, she became a part of their life. First, both Christie's, then just Archie. Soon, Nan became Archie's mistress, luring him away from his devoted wife, desperate to marry him. Nan's plot didn't begin the day she met Archie and Agatha. It began decades before in Ireland, when Nan was a young girl. She and the man she loved were a star-crossed couple who were destined to be together until the Great War, a pandemic, and shameful secrets that tore them apart. Then acts of unspeakable cruelty kept them separated. What drives someone to murder? What will someone do in the name of love? What kind of crime can someone never forgive? And like I said, this book, it doesn't mention anything about a plot, but as I said again, there is a chunk, there's a certain plot aspect that does take place at a hotel. The characters are kind of gathered around. Next up, Mistress of the Ritz by Melanie Benjamin. Nothing bad can happen at the Ritz. Inside its gilded walls, every woman looks beautiful, every man appears witty. Favored guests like Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Coco Chanel, and the Duke and Duchess of Windsor walk through its famous doors to be welcomed and pampered by Blanche Ozello and her husband Claude, the hotel's director. The Ozellos are the mistress and master of the Ritz, allowing the glamour and glitz to take their minds off their troubled marriage and off the secrets that they keep from their guests and each other. Until June 1940, when the German army sweeps into Paris, setting up headquarters at the Ritz. Suddenly, with the likes of Hermann Göring moving into suites once occupied by royalty, Blanche and Claude must navigate a terrifying new reality, one that entails even more secrets, one that may destroy the tempestuous marriage between the beautiful, reckless American and her very proper Frenchman. For the falsehoods they tell to survive, and to strike a blow against their Nazi guests, spin a web of deceit and ensnares everything and everyone they cherish. Ooh. Next up, The Girl from the Grand Hotel by Camille Aubray. Summer 1939. The glittering Côte d'Azur is having a particularly brilliant season, as the world's wealthiest vacationers collide with Hollywood's illustrious movie stars for the first ever film festival on the French Riviera. Into this hothouse playground comes an American named Annabelle. Having left a dead-end job and a broken heart back in New York, she's escaped to a summer stint at the fabulous Grand Hotel where her uncle is the manager. But when a major movie studio brings its flock of stars to stay at the hotel, Annabelle is handpicked to keep an eye on two of the mysterious a screenwriter who's been literally in his cups, and a renegade actor who keeps luring the studio's female star into his independent productions. The arrival of Nazi, yes, there's a lot of these books, the hotels and the Nazis just come on in and take over the hotel. There's a lot of books like that, you guys. The arrival of Nazi guests only intensifies the situation. Suddenly, everyone is watching everybody else during this feverish last summer before the outbreak of World War II. Faced with international spies who will stop at nothing to get what they want, Annabelle finds herself embroiled in murder, intrigue, and a race against the clock to disrupt a secret Nazi communication system. Next up, A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. Of course, this book had to be on the list. This is probably the most well-known book on this list. In 1922, Count Alexander Rostov is deemed an unrepentant aristocrat by a Bolshevik tribunal and is sentenced to house arrest in the Metropole, a grand hotel across the street from the Kremlin. Rostov, an indomitable man of erudition and wit, has never worked a day in his life, and must now live in an attic room where one of the most tumultuous decades in Russian history are unfolding outside the hotel doors. Unexpectedly, his reduced circumstances provide him entry into a much larger world of emotional discovery. Seriously, I can't wait to get to this book. I watched the TV show that had Ewan McGregor, you guys. I love the show. Next up, Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet by Jamie Ford. In 1986, Henry Lee joins a crowd outside the Panama Hotel, once the gateway to Seattle's Japantown. It has been boarded up for decades, but now the new owner has discovered the belongings of Japanese families who were sent to internment camps during World War II. As the owner displays and unfurls a Japanese parasol, Henry, a Chinese-American, remembers a young Japanese-American girl from his childhood in the 1940s, Kiko, with whom he forged a bond of friendship and innocent love that transcended the prejudices of their old world ancestors. After Kiko and her family were evacuated to the internment camps, she and Henry could only hope that their promise to each other would be kept. Now, 40 years later, Henry explores the hotel's basement, for for this girl that he liked, her family's belongings, and for a long lost object whose value he cannot even begin to measure. His search will take him on a journey to revisit the sacrifices he has made for family, for love, and for country. So yeah, it sounds like this book is going to go back and forth, like between like the present and World War II, it sounds like. And the last book that I have here for my list of recommendations for books that take place in hotels, we have Hotel Portofino. I think that's how that's pronounced. Hotel Portofino by J.P. O'Connell. Hotel Portofino has been open for only a few weeks, but already the problems are mounting for its owner, Bella Ainsworth. Her high-class guests are demanding and hard to please, and she's being targeted by a scheming and corrupt local politician who threatens to drag her into the red-hot cauldron of Mussolini's Italy. To make matters worse, her marriage is in trouble and her children are still struggling to recover from the repercussions of the Great War. All eyes are on the arrival of a potential love match for her son Lucian, but events don't go to plan, which will have far-reaching consequences for the whole family. So you guys, that is it for my list of recommendations for books that take place in hotels. A lot of these sound super thrilling and exciting. Like I said, there's a lot of books that take place like during World War II and, you know, Nazi invasions coming in and taking over hotels. That's pretty popular within historical fiction. But yeah, you guys, any of these books that you have read and enjoyed in the past, and any of the books that I should put on this list, just let me know down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.